Hello everybody, Janks here. I'm going to post this on YouTube for everyone to see, so if there are some old squad friends running around, I'm more known as Maka730, so if you know me from those days, hello again, was a long time ago. And today we're going to talk about rollouts. This was originally a seminar held for Highlander Company in 1st Marine Division. It was liked so much by some people who joined as spectators from other companies that I was asked to run it in the context of the training team, so I ran for the division. A lot of people missed it. I have been asked to rerun it a third time. I am probably going to rerun it a third time sometime, but for now I'm just going to record myself going through it. You're going to lose some context from questions and some general chatter, but I'm going to go through most of the material. So if you missed both trainings, here you have the video link, and you can watch this video before I run it again sometime somewhere in the future. So what is an incident training? This is my takes, and I want to emphasize. I have an opinion on how to plan and how to do rollouts in squads. Okay? It's not the only school of thought, it's not the only thing that works, but I will promise you it works. Okay? And what I hope to teach you is that if you're a new SL, if you're a bit wondering what you can do and a bit scared of this rollout thing, usually those SLs just go back cap, fight for fourth. And I want you to get tools and get things that allow you to be more creative in how you plan your rollouts. And if you're more experienced, I hope to give you tools that you can adjust to how you like to play the game, and you can adjust to your own play style, because play styles and play expressions are very important. So I don't want to prescribe you any rollouts. I just want to give you tools to identify and create rollouts that work for you. First of all, we're going to talk about squad calc. I know some people, especially on that goddamn fuck shit Reddit, they like to complain about squad calc. De facto is squad calc is in the culture of squad an accepted tool. It is a tool that is allowed, and it is also a tool that is expected to be used. It's an external website where you can press your team, your starting team, and you can press which caps you have capped so far, and you can know where the potential points are in play. So if you're playing team 2 here and it goes south farm, well, you know that northeast is not going to be in play. So if you go here and you're not trying to interdict transports or you're an IFE, you're doing something wrong. You're not playing for the map, you're not playing for what's happening. But what a lot of people don't realize about squad calc is that you can use it in reverse. Let's say we're an infantry squad in a transport. We drove up to intersection, and we're fighting intersection, and we're keeping a very good map control. We got control over intersection. Good job. We're controlled over one of the potential central points. This is very powerful. This is something we like doing. But then we get a call out. Enemies are fobbing crash site. Enemies are fighting really hard for crash site. And sometimes it doesn't mean anything, but sometimes it really does. And on this layer, it really, really does. Because if I pull up squad calc here, okay, it's going south arms. It tells us it can go intersection or 4 points, center or southwest. But if you look on the enemies, well, Zatar goes to crash site and roadblock goes to intersection. They have no first point that goes to both crash site and intersection. So if we're fighting on intersection and the enemies are fighting on crash site, well, they're not fighting for crash site without a reason. They're fighting for crash site because they care about crash site. They're fighting for crash site because it's something they want to have for the future of the game. And the only thing that leads to crash site is Zatar compound. So then we know, by fighting intersection, enemies fobbing crash site, we immediately know we're out of play. Even though squad calc still says we're in play, even though squad calc thinks that we are fighting well, we are not in play, because the enemies sit on way more information. And one of the most important skills you can learn while rolling out, and one of the most important skills you can plan around, is to plan around or react around what the enemy does. Identify what layers does the enemy have way more information than do, and start deducing information. Because now we're going south farm, intersection. Oh no, they're fighting for crash site. Well, we need to disengage. We need to head down south over to Overgrown Village. If we can get away with it, we can maybe push here and try and be annoying and north of the center point. Okay? Always deduce what are the enemies doing. Use squad calc in reverse. Where does those layers get you? Where does those layers not get you? And adjust accordingly. If you, I can't emphasize enough how important this is. The enemy's information can become your own information if you just analyze their behavior. Yes, this is the slide. So, I'm going to talk a bit about squad history, because squad history is very, very fun. Okay? Back in the day, during beta, the meta was you fight for center point, because, that's where it all ends up going, and you have one squad backcapping, a slow backcap, and you just chug yourself towards center, or you cap center, then you start leapfrogging. And some very, very clever bloke decided he wanted to go to warehouse one day. And everyone was like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing, man? The enemies get to warehouse before you. They're gonna kill you in your transport. And it's not center point, So someone's gonna sneak in, they're gonna cap. Bro did it anyway, and it was an incredibly strong play. They actually ended up nerfing Messy as a map. They made a hole in the bridge down here to make it harder. After that, you could drive up on the road wall and you could still do this, and they added a rock there. So now you can no longer do this rollout. And this was revolutionary because, yes, the enemies get to warehouse before you, they can get their guns up, they can shoot you before that, but they didn't. Nobody did. That wasn't the meta. That's not what anybody did. And sure, you can try push into warehouse, but you're going to be mobile. They're going to be set. They're going to have all the angles. They're going to be already bushwalking as you try and move in there. It's not that easy just to sneak into a point. And that's something you have to realize. It's really not easy just sneaking into a point. And usually what ended up happening was that eventually everyone was fighting for fourth. Eventually we would cap fourth, and they would all be capping warehouse. It was overall just a really strong play. And it is based on this. I spent a lot of time back in the days chatting in voice chats and discussing with really smart SLs. Warehouse rush, its implications. Can we recreate this on other maps? What to do about it? Do we want to change how it rolls and Messier to begin with? It was really revolutionary. And this discussion is what led me and two other lads to develop what we called consent theory, or I will refer to it as permission theory because I think that's a more proper term to use it for. So if you know about consent theory, it's the same thing we're talking about. It is one way to plan but more importantly assess how good a rollout might be. And the core considerations are timing, permission, effect. We'll begin by timing. It's the first one, and it's also the easiest one. It is the one that you understand. Who gets there first? If Team 1 wants to go to Radio Tower and Team 2 wants to go to Radio Tower, they both want to go to Radio Tower. Hypothetical situation. Team 2 will get there before 1. Even though it's Team 1's third point, even Team 2 will get there first. They win the timing. And what does winning the timing imply? Winning the timing imply means that you get there first, you can dismount your infantry, you can get your hat up, you can get ready to start shooting while the enemies are moving in with their transport, and you can kill them with the transport. If you lose the timing, most often you want to rally up and push in on foot. Usually if I want to fight a Radio Tower, I will drive down here to here, because right here northwest of Radio Tower you actually win the timing. And then you rally up and you push down on foot through the forest. Still, you're a mobile force. They're going to have all the angles. They're going to be prepared. You're going to be pushing them. So they're still probably going to win that firefight unless you get some surprise going. It's a rollout. You're probably not going to get that. Or you get an IV or some larger force. But the core thing to consider about timing is that a set force will always win against a pushing attacking force if the attacking force has no surprise and is of equal size. And the second thing, which is a bit more complicated topic, is permission. If you lose the timing, doesn't mean you're not allowed to do that rollout, because for an enemy to be for there to be a set force somewhere that you can die to, there has to be a set force there. And a team only has 5 infantry squads, 2-3 IFVs, something like that. Okay? You have limited resources, so the enemy cannot stop you to go everywhere on the map. Meaning there's always places you can go, even if you lose the timing. Question is just which. If the enemy decides to send a transport truck onto Neva Tower and drop down and defend Neva Tower, they have then denied you permission to drive your transport down here, down south, and into the point proper. Okay? If the enemy rushes IFVs up this eastern road, they have now denied you permission to use this road for your rollout. If you have, for example, track logis. Okay? That is, you have to consideration. Think a bit ahead. What do people usually like doing, and what does that stop you from doing? Okay? For example, nearly nobody on these layers would stop you from driving a transport down here. Actually, the quicker timing is even to go down here and rallying up here and fighting for force from south, fighting train bridge, harassing river fortress. You lose the timing drastically, but no one is going to be there set. No one's going to stop you. Okay? And that is the core thing about permission. People can stop you. Yes. People don't always stop you. And if you win the timing, you are the one set force. So you don't need to ask for permission on remotely as many different, remotely as much. You get me? If you, as Team 2, win the timing on Radio Tower, you are the set force of equal sight. Okay? You are the one denying the enemy permission. Unless the enemy decides to push 2 squads there. Unless the enemy team decided to push an infantry squad and an IFV down there. Now they're a larger force. Now this rule of set force beats pushing force without surprises is not valid. It's not correct. Now the enemy has denied you permission. So again, think beforehand. What are the enemies likely to do, and play more about what they're likely to do and less about what they can do. This is a play we have all seen. This is a play that's very common. Team 1 and Team 2, let's say we're both wheeled IFVs, and we forget that Brits don't have wheeled IFVs. Let's just call it Marine Corps Lab versus Russian BT-82s, okay? It's very common for Team 1 to send 3 IFVs down this road, okay? In terms of permission theory, why is this a very strong play? First of all, it is not a play that the enemies can deny permission to. It's not a play that enemies can deny you permission to do. You send your IFVs down there. The most the enemies can do to stop you from doing that is to send 3 of their own IFVs, and maybe they beat your 80 down the central road. And that's what ends up happening very often. You got 3 IFVs versus 3 IFVs slung it down middle road, and the beginning of the game determines how good armor players you have on the first 5 minutes. So the enemy can't really deny permission. You're always allowed to do this play. But more importantly, you start denying enemy permissions. You say, hey enemy, you're not allowed to use this road in the rollout with a logi or a transport. You're not allowed to use the center road, which is essential to get to a lot of places with any type of timing in your rollout. And you're going to have to plan accordingly or get face checked. Because if you lose the permission, if you say, I want to do this, and the enemies actually say no, you just die. You drive into an open top with 50 cal and you get wiped. You drive into infantry that's set while you're in a transport, you die. Checking permissions you don't have will result in a wipe and a whiff. A rollout whiff. A whiff is when you don't accomplish anything in the rollout. And a lot of time people will just blindly assume that you give them that permission, and you can, make a lot of enemy squads with the rollout, get 9 kills and transport. That's 12 tickets nowadays. Pretty powerful. Also, they need to spawn on a fob somewhere. They have to go back to main. They're not going to win any time. They're going to be out of play for a long time. It's strong. It's very strong to do this. And about this whiffing rollouts, once you start doing more aggressive plays, once you start asking for more permissions, which I encourage everybody to do, you're gonna get whiffs. You're gonna die in a transport. You're gonna die on your way there. You're gonna die a lot until you start realizing and you start understanding what permissions enemies tend to give you and what permissions enemies tend to deny you. Okay, but before you start doing that, before you start understanding this, you're gonna die. And dying is a part of the learning process. So don't be afraid to do aggressive rollouts and then dying. Don't be ashamed of whiffing a rollout. It happens to everybody. It happens to me consistently, all the time. Then we're gonna go down to this meta. Meta is very important to understand. And I define meta in a server of what permissions the enemies tend to give you and what permissions they don't tend to give you. Okay? And it changes from servers, it changes from times, it's something that's fluently changing. And a good way, nobody plays enough squad to understand fully the meta of a server. But, chat with people in voice chatters, what do you like to do? What have you seen other people do? What does this and this guy do? And based upon that, assume what the enemy is likely to do. I actually go a step further. I tend to go on the tab menu. I have it set as M because tab is my map, and look through the enemy team. I recognize the names of the frequent SLs on our servers, and I know most of their playstyles. And I know roughly what they will be doing, and roughly what they will not be doing. And that, for me, guides me to what permissions they're going to give me and what permissions they're not going to give me. This is a classical example. Gordok. It's going Western. What do people love doing on this layer? Rushing Hill 57. Hill 57 is a very strong point, very easily defended point. It is something you want. So it's very, very common for Team 2 to rush Hill 57. Drive your IFEs down, drive all your IFEs that are wheeled, and a Logi and some transport, and just bunker up on Hill 57. This has in turn led to a meta, at least on our servers, that people will be counter-rushing Hill 57. Team 1 actually wins the timing here. So Team 1 tends to drive their own IFEs, their own Logis. They're going to become the set force on Hill 57 before the enemies manage to rush it. And you can usually get a lot of kills, a lot of force a lot of whiffs on the enemy rollouts. And, if they actually rush you, and you're there, you're going to have a very good time. This is called a counter rush. A counter rush is rushing something where you have the timing that you expect the enemies to rush just so you're set before them. But we can, so that's meta thinking. Okay, enemies love pushing Hill 57. Perfect. I will counter rush Hill 57 and play around that. You can go one step further. People now love counter rushing Hill 57 on our servers. I have found tremendous success in rushing Boar Hunters Club instead of Hill 57. Because what happens? The entire team is set up on Hill 57. They've got all their FEs, got all their infantry, they're all set up Hill 57, expecting a rush. Then you just don't do it. You go to Boar Hunters Club. It doesn't take you much longer time to get there. It's still a very central road. You don't actually drive down here. You drive down here to avoid IFEs. And you set up there. And the enemies, once again, they win their timing, but will they deny you permission? No, they will not, because they will have one person, maybe two people backcapping, and then the rest are going to be on Hill 57, and you get to Boar Hunters Club before they finish capping the first, and their unit capping the first will go to Boar Hunters Club, expect nothing. You're going to deny them permission to cap the second, or just drive in like that. You're going to wipe them, and now the enemy is having a huge problem. Because you're on their second, you wipe their backcappers, they're going to have to send somebody down. If you have a hat with them, it's not even going to be super safe to send an IFE there. Good times. So consider the meta. What do people like doing? What do people not like doing when you assess what permission do you want to give the enemy team? what permissions what permissions you're gonna take away from the enemy team by doing different plays, and what permissions you think the enemy team is gonna give you. The last one is the most straightforward. Okay, meta, absolutely. This slide is 2 months old. I wrote here, subject to a change within times 1 of a month. This is now 2 months old. This slide is now completely outdated. But what to observe on our servers? First Marine Division. We like fast backups now. We like leapfrogging backups. We like sending... I'm going to go through what leapfrogging backups is. We like rushing. We still like rushing, but we also start liking counter-rushing. Because we realize, everyone is rushing. When everyone's rushing, we kind of want to be counter-rushing to counter that. Perfect. We're now playing with high priority over the point proper of force usually, but very low emphasis on map control and information around the central point. If you're unaware of the meta, if you're unaware what people will be doing, if you're unaware what people will not be doing, consider doing a safer backup, consider doing something where you don't ask as many permissions, because once again, face checking a permission you don't get will lead you to die. Or if you want to understand what the meta is, if you want to push your boundaries, keep asking permission, keep seeing where you die, keep seeing where you don't die, and you abuse that information and abuse the playstats. I, for a long time on First Marine Division servers, got my reputation for being a very aggressive on my rollouts, sending it very deep. And partially that was because I thought aggression was the right play, but partially was because I deliberately decided to test the boundaries, see what I was allowed to be doing, and I very consistently, very safely got it to very aggressive positions and very disruptive positions for the enemies. Just by being wiped and whiffing so many rollouts, I know where I would be whiffed and where I would not be whiffed. That is where I got this idea of rushing Boar Hunters Club. This is one of my things that has stood the test of time, of that nobody actually denies the permission to rush Boar Hunters Club. If this changes when I release this training on YouTube, well, we'll see. Effect is the last one. Remember, time information effect. Effect is very straightforward. What do you actually accomplish by going somewhere? What do you actually accomplish by your rollout? And I want to emphasize, deny of key enemy permissions is one of the most powerful things you can do in a rollout, okay? Especially if you play against teams that like to go aggressive. Let's say you're playing against Shadow Company. Shadow Companies are really good at going aggressive. They know how to rush, they know how to mess you up, okay? So let's say you're playing a Shadow Company. Now we need to start thinking about what core permissions do we need to prevent the enemies from getting. Let's say that we are Team 1, okay? We're Team 1, it goes Gold 1, okay? Team 2. Team 2 knows everything, we know nothing. Then it might be so that we want to, and we have helicopters, then we might want to sell a helicopter to this bridge. Because we know aggressive players, they want to send a logi down here to 4 corners and fob 4 corners. Very, very common, okay? So a denial of permission effect might be to drop 3 ATs and a rifleman over by my mouse here to deny the enemy permission to use that road in a rollout. That's one example. You can also counter rush. You can do a lot of fun things. And second is this diffuse word that everyone disagrees what it means and what it doesn't mean. Map control. Map control is a mixture of denying the enemy the ability to be in certain key places on the map while you're able to distribute fire on other places. Meanwhile, you're able to gather information from your team. It's a wide topic. But rollout, not rolling out to a point and not rolling out to a key MSR and just grabbing information, grabbing terrain can be very powerful. Oftentimes, there are points and there are locations that everybody love fobbing at. It's like maps where consistently over and over again the fobs land on the same place. For example, this one, 4 corners. The fob always lands on 4 corners. Okay, so if you're team 1, if you have a helicopter, it can sometimes be very worth it just to push a location where you suspect the enemies are dropping a fob beforehand. Because usually you get them with their pants down, they're digging a fob, the fob isn't fully up, but the radio's down, you can get a wipe, and you get free 20 tickets. That's, what is it? Logi, 9 people on a radio. Now we're looking at maths, 34 tickets. That's a lot of fucking tickets. So just pre-pushing where the enemies are likely to place fobs based on the map, based on the layer, based on your experience from the get-go. Super strong. Backcapping, obviously. Someone needs to back up. You need cap progress to win this game. Different layers require different fast backups, but you always need backcapping. And the last one is complicate enemy backups. There we go with denying roads to certain backups and rushing. I'm gonna go into details more later on what actually I mean by rushing. So, why do we like certain rollouts? I'm going to give you some concrete examples and apply permission theory on top of this to give you a better understanding of what I actually mean by permission theory, some concrete examples, but also so you have, if you're new and you have no clue what you're doing, you can have some rollouts that you can actually just rely upon and you can use if you don't want to always backup. Well, first of all, we're talking about backups. Backcapping, a fast backup. There are 2 ways to do a fast backup. Sometimes you really need to have the center point just to understand where your team needs to go. Think Black Host spawning northwest. I can actually put that. Let's pull up Black Host. It was Res 2. Well, Pig Farm is guaranteed, but you get so much information capping the first point that you want to cap with 5 chevrons, 2 full infantry squads on top of the point. But other maps that are less reliant on knowing exactly where like getting first cap super fast, you want to do what's called leapfrog backups. What you do is you send 1 squad to cap 1, they start capping. The second squad goes to potential second, friendly second, and as soon as we know where second is, they can be really quickly on top of second, dismount, and start capping. And the one who first go to potential thirds, and as soon as we cap second, they start capping third. This is significantly quicker than actually being 2 squads getting 5 chevrons driving and 2 squads getting 5 chevrons. The back cap goes quicker by like 1.5 minutes, which is huge in the fight for fourth. And positive stuff about this is you know where the map is going. I pulled up Highlands for a reason. It is very difficult knowing where the point goes. It can go nearly anywhere, so you want fast backups to make sure that your team is in play. And if you get rushed, if the enemy drops a full 9-man squad on your second or your third point, well, you are already 2 squads. And then the theory regarding a equal-sized force without any surprises, the defending squad will, the set force will win. Well, now you're 2 squads. Now you're 8 against 9. And you automatically outnumber them. You automatically the larger force. So this rule does no longer apply. And usually the enemy is not able to actually delay you significantly at all. There are also some key timings that you win if you do it like this. I will go through that a bit more later. But there are some timings on the third where you actually win the rush if you leapfrog back cap before the enemies get there. And you won't get stuck out of play. For example, let's say I am a very aggressive SL. I drive my squad. Actually not even there. I drive them. I want to play for Tatar. And then we get... Excuse me, my microphone decided to turn off there for some reason. Let's say I'm a very aggressive squad that goes to Tatar on the rollout, and after the first, it goes to Tustos. Well, then we know that Urmul is center point, because that's just how the layer goes. And this would be a whiff on my end. I'm going far east, the layer's going far west, I'm not going to do anything here. Even if I didn't ask for permission, I whiffed the rollout. Once again, happens all the time. By doing the backcaps, you guarantee you're not going to be the squad that whiffs because you checked the permission that you didn't get, or you sent it somewhere that didn't end up becoming relevant. Second one is to rush into the south. And rush is getting on top of enemies first, second, or third point, so the ones before the central point, before the enemy gets there, and from the get-go. And the idea is that, well, if I am team 1, and I got helicopters, I can send a helicopter to Lower Plantation, we say. This is, first of all, it's a permission play because I'm denying this bridge. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about rushing. Well, the enemy team, let's actually do Yunbu. Yunbu is a clear example. I drive my helicopter to Yunbu, still deny of the road here. Is deny permission to use a road. But also, what's going to happen is that enemies will be capping first, and then they will drive to second, and they're going to check permission. I'm allowed to cap second, you're going to deny that. Okay? And you are already the set force. You get there before the enemies, you are the set force, they're the mobile force. Okay? And what happens is that they're going to have to call in some kind of help, some kind of vehicle, because they're not going to get the surprise on that push. And they're going to need some kind of larger force to push a point and to sneak into a point. People always complain, just sneak into the point. Sneaking into a point is very difficult. You cannot just simply sneak into a point. You need a larger force. Okay? And what's going to happen is that, you're 9 people fighting on the enemy second, and the enemy needs to be 9 people plus a wheeled IV. The enemy needs to be 9 people plus 5 people. The enemy needs to be 9 people plus maybe 2 IVs if you have really good shooters. Whatever happens, the enemy team is going to need more resources on their second cap than you have actually committed to the second cap. And you're going to get rolled, you're going to get crushed, you're going to fight ticket negative, and you're going to die. That's okay. But now, automatically, per default, your team has more resources on the rest of the map. Your team has more resources fighting for fourth, because the enemy is more than you on their second. And usually that leads to you winning the fight for fourth. Nearly always. Okay? So by rushing, you're giving tickets. You're saying, I'm fighting ticket negative, but the effect is justifying it. The effect makes it okay. And you do that to allow the team to cap fourth. And you do that on a map where fourth is very strong, where fourth is something very valuable. Okay? On maps where fourth is very weak, where fourth is hard to defend, where you don't really want fourth, rushing serves very little purpose, because you rush enemy second to get fourth. But for example, on this map, on Sanctioned Islands, you never want to be the team that's stuck on the islands and you can't push because there's rivers and the enemies are set up here. It's miserable. You want this fourth so that you can actually fight for map control, and maybe you can pressure plantations and Sabai and stuff like that, okay? So that is the main reason to rush. You're not rushing for time. You don't buy time, you buy attention. Counter-rushing. Counter-rushing you do on layers and times when the enemy rushing you would be very problematic. When the enemy rushing you would actually be a very big deal and something you can't really afford. Okay? For example, we have Scorpo. Scorpo is one of my favorite maps. I love doing air cabin Scorpo as an infantry SL main who has very, very good helicopter pilots on my servers. This is my jam, Team 2 can actually drive a transport all the way over here. There's a tunnel here that goes to Fatin, and another tunnel that goes to Rovets-tunnel. Sorry my pronunciation, I am Swedish, not Norwegian. And then they can get to Svingen and Hjelmlandsgarden very quickly. And if you use Team 1, if you camp Ada Kellet, and then you push down south to the seconds, you actually lose the timing if you cap first. Okay? And the enemy, if it goes to British Dal, the enemy actually even knows that it's these 2 points. That's these 2 points that you have in play, before you even know it's guaranteed these 2 points. So in this time, in these crucial layers where rushing would actually be a disaster, the enemy rushing you would be a disaster, you want to counter rush. Okay? And what you do is that you, as a squad, go to second, you set up expecting to be pushed. The enemy are rushing you expecting to be the set squad, the set asset, and you become the set squad, and you become the set fighting force, and by that they are forced to push into you, sometimes without even noticing and being ready for it, and you just wipe them. Okay? You force the enemy to whiff the rollout, and you make it safe. Okay? In Scorpio, you don't want chaotic games, you want predictable games. And by counter-rushing key points and making sure enemies can't rush you, you just make it safer and you make it easier and you make it smoother. And smoother games usually win you on Scorpio. And counter-rushing is the thing where, once again on the meta, when I play squad, what I usually do is that I look on the tabs menu, or M, and I check who are the enemy infantry SLs. I know most of the names on our servers, and I know how you guys like to play. So if I see somebody who likes rushing, if I see somebody who loves fast backups, if I see somebody who likes doing certain things, that should be considered under the meta part. That should be considered to see what permissions you're going to be give, but also what the enemies are trying to do and what permissions you need to deny. Counter-rushing is a denial of permission play. Playing for potential fourth. We love it. Somebody needs to do that, as fourth is important, and you want somebody to have presence there. Sometimes you know where fourth is, for example, this layer, most often you don't. You just kind of have to guess, you kind of have to start rolling towards there. Usually, I would say that you do that with transport, not a logi, just my opinion, because sometimes there's a lot of enemies on fourth, you cannot guarantee to take up a radio, you lose the radio, you lose 20 tickets. Usually, I say you send a transport with infantry, you secure the area, and then you come with a fob afterwards when you know it's safe. No reason to risk the 20 tickets. But anyways, what's really important when playing for fourth is that you use it on all the information. Okay? Where are the team's enemies pushing you from? Oh, are they pushing you from the north? Relay that to the rest of the team. That's probably an enemy fob. Maybe an infantry squad that's mobile can get a cross push and take down the radio and get a good crossfire or a sneak push on top of the radio. Lovely. Oh, the enemies are fighting over this general terrain. Okay, now the team knows they can't use. The enemy team has denied us permission to use that in our rollout. The enemy team has denied us permission to use that when we're getting mobility. We have to go other ways. Okay, nearly always the people fighting for fourth sit on so crucial information for the rest of the team to plan around them, and they don't communicate it. Sitting on fourth is a communication, not nightmare. It's communication heavy and it's communication essential. That is really, you should always be on the mic as squad leader, but that is time you really fucking need to be on the mic. And also, I changed my mind on this point, so I'm just not going to address it. Okay, playing for third. Somebody needs to play for third. Usually it becomes a very hectic, very big battle for fourth. And if you lose the battle for fourth, well, you already need people set up on third in case you lose the fourth one. So that you don't get automatically rolled. Very straightforward. I want to emphasize, on third, get the repair station. Vehicles love repair stations. They can support you for longer time. They don't need to go back to main. They don't need to risk driving into mines. Vehicle players need repair stations. Every single game, there should be a repair station up. And if you're going to third, it is your responsibility to get a repair station up. Okay? So that's just what I want to emphasize playing for third. It's a very safe one. You nearly always win the timings. You don't need to ask for permission. If they rush you, they usually rush you on second. Sometimes rush you on third. Does happen. You have to be a bit more on the toes then. But yeah, playing for third is playing for fourth and playing for third and backupping. Those are things where you always need a squad doing. Now comes this diffuse terminology, map control, that nobody agrees on what it is. Okay? But if you look here on Hard U, very often times the enemy will actually get you permission to get on top of this hill here. And this hill is what I classify as essential terrain. Super easy to defend. If enemy push you, you're going to be fighting ticket positive. You can get a rally, they won't burn easily. You can get eyes on 2 enemy seconds. You can get eyes on enemy thirds. If we start playing if the fight comes from fourth, you can fill in from the southeast, and you can dig down their fob. They're trying to fight for fourth over. It is just, that hill is just terrain you want to hold. It is just stupid powerful. Okay? And a lot of maps have these just stupid powerful locations to hold. Also, if there's a Logi driving here, there's a Logi driving here, IFVs, you can AT them. If you identify areas, we just say like, damn, every time I am on this area, I fight well. Every time I am on this area, I relay essential information to the team. That is a valid rollout. You don't need to fight for points. I know that there is this terminology, play the fucking objective. I disagree. I get mad every single time people say that, because there's so many ways you can be productive. There are so many ways you can help the team tremendously while playing off point. Pushing enemy fobs, gathering information, denying supply lines, all that fun stuff. Okay, you don't always need to play the objective. Originally in the seminar, I did an exercise. If you want to do this exercise by yourselves, you can still do it. I will explain how to do it. And I will also then explain how to do a exercise on your own if you're listening to this by yourself. The original exercise is that we pull out, this is actually Black Host RAS 2 Black Host. And then you're playing as American wheeled IFVs. Okay? You give people different assets. 2 people are going to have larger trucks and a squad of infantry. 2 people are going to have transport trucks and a squad of infantry. 1 person is going to have 2 MATVs and an infantry squad, and the 3 people are going to have wheeled IFVs. Standard United States Marine Corps wheeled IFVs faction. And you're playing against Russian motorized, so BTR-82s, BTR-80, some Tigers, transports, and larger trucks. Okay, 3 BTR-82s is central. And simulate a command chat. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to make sure somebody's backcapping? Just try and organize a rollout and make sure that everyone gets somewhere productive. After that, everybody should justify your rollout by timing, permission, and effect. Once again, permission theory. I can say, oh, I am a transport. I will be backcapping monastery. I will win my timing. The enemy is physically unable to deny me permission on monastery. My effect is that I get cap progress. Perfect, easy one to justify. Let's say I want to rush to Rivia. If you check around, there's pretty many points to go to Rivia, and it's very strong. That might look like this. I'm rushing to Rivia with my 2 MATVs. I will lose the timing. If they're set, I will die. I will waste my rollout. That's okay. Permission? Usually enemies don't deny you permission to cap second on timing. If the enemy go to pig farm, cap pig farm, even on 5 chevrons, and then go to Rivia, you win that timing. So permission, enemies can deny permission. They can send a IFE down this road. They can set up an infantry squad there beforehand and counter rush it. So permission would be a dodgy one. You'll say they can deny permission, they cannot deny permission. Who knows? Maybe. We will see. But I'm rushing Rivia, I'm winning the timing. They might not give us permission. How will they not give us permission? IFE on the road there. Infantry squad on Rivia. Probably not going to happen. Infantry squad on Rivia is very uncommon, but it happens. Effect. Once again, being a set force on enemy second point, forcing them to divert more resources than I am on their second point, meaning that we will have asset superiority on other places. And then, go down the list, everybody justifies the rollout in timing, precision, effect, and then an overall picture. Do you have a functioning rollout? Have you covered all your bases? Can you cover all the bases? Or the bases you cannot cover? If you want to do this on your own, you can do the same thing, but you control all assets. Then it's going to be more like a commander prepping a scrim. You control the infantry squads, where they're going, where the IFE is going, who's setting up where. And just plan a rollout that way. So let's just conclude everything we've been talking about. Let's so that everybody understands and everybody has a big picture, because I know some of you have probably forgot about some things. I would have, because, oh my god, this is a 45-minute yap session. Squad calc, use it. You know where the points go. You make sure you're not out of play. You know when you get out of play. Use squad calc in reverse. If the enemy sits on more information than you, or just straight up different information than you can defer information of where the calves go based on their actions. Core consideration, timing. Who gets there first? Permission. If you win the timing, you seldom have to ask for permission. But will they allow you to get there? And then effect. What are you actually doing there? Meta. Different servers tend to allow or deny different permissions. On different servers, you need to deny different permissions and different things, okay? So you need to play squad in the context of a server. And I recommend you all sticking to a server so you understand what's happening on the server and what you see regularly on that server. Fast backups, rushing, counter-rushing, yeah. I think that is everything. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if there's something you want to bring up, something was unclear, feel free to shoot me a DM on Discord. Feel free to join the voice chat like, hey, Chanks, what's up? As said, I am one of the few people who think that talking about squad and talking shop about squad and discussing and theorizing on squad is more fun than playing the actual game. So I am always up for talking shop. And I hope you learned something. Also, in addition, I am going to be hosting more seminars for 1st Marine Division. Those ones I tend to record from the beginning. Then you're going to hear the seminars together with questions, together with discussions, and it's going to be more lively. And I hope you stick around for those two. I'll see ya.